Home is where the heart is. It's our most valuable possession and the one place where we should feel safe. So what happens when it comes under threat?
You hear these rats scurrying through into your house.
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
And when disasters devastate not just your home, but your life.
It was sheer panic.
The water rose very quickly.
Yeah.
Frightening.
The guts and the soul of the house have been ripped out.
Coming up, a dream family home becomes a perilous building site.
Now I'm at breaking point. Just had enough, I just want my life back.
Speeding traffic threatens one farmer's home, life and limb.
If I'd have been one step later, my legs would have been taken off.
And a once idyllic coastal home is dragged over a cliff.
Everything that was in there I lost. I was in a state of shock.
In Yorkshire, life for one farmer used to be very peaceful. But he's now living in fear in his own home. His property has been hit by speeding cars a staggering 40 times in the last decade.
Seriously now, it's thinking it's time to move.
Ted has lived in this small farming community in Yorkshire all his life. And for the past 15 years, he's rented an 18th century tied farm workers' cottage.
When I first moved in, I did enjoy it and it was a nice place, but as things have happened, it's made you stressed and it made me think.
When Ted first moved in, this was a quiet village road. But in recent years, it has become much busier. Now more than 7,000 vehicles a day use this narrow bay road as a route into nearby Rotherham.
Like it.
Unfortunately for Ted, his cottage sits in a perilous position, at the bottom of a hill on a dangerous bend.
Cars often come up this curb and bounce along it. This is a bad bend, and it's not a bend out of the countryside, it's a bend in the middle of a village.
I do really feel sorry for Ted because he sort of bore the brunt of the accidents last year. Although there were 32, I think he coughed for most of them, I'm afraid.
This is my garden that is unusable. This is where in the last year there's been 4 cars through here. The whole expanse of this wall had to be completely rebuilt. It's been demolished. And the first one that came through down at the bottom, coming down here, there used to be a shed standing here that he hit. Demolished the shed. I was stood just here as I was going to fetch some wood out of my wood store. If I'd have been one step later, my legs would have been taken off. The car was a write-off, had to be towed away. I'm on first name terms with the recovery people. They know me now.
To my mind, the worst one was the young lady who finished up upside down facing the wrong way in Ted's garden last year. To look at that car, you wouldn't have believed that anybody had got out of it alive.
If the trauma wasn't enough, Ted's had to shell out £10,000 on repairing his walls. It's been an insurance nightmare.
When it's been the walls knocked down, and then you've got to get onto the vehicle insurers, and some of them can be a bit awkward about paying out. They don't want to be fair, they want to pay you as little as possible, and I'm very nervous because every time one comes around that corner you can see them and you're thinking, is this going to come over? So I don't spend any time in the garden, anything I come out, bit of wood, back in as fast as I can, out of the way.
His garden is a dangerous place, but it was inside his home that Ted came closest to death.
This is the one that really brought it home, how dangerous this corner was and how dangerous it was in my kitchen.
How would you feel if your dream family home turned into a death trap?
It's literally falling down around us.
A family's house is in ruins after their builder disappeared, taking their money with him.
I would have
never imagined that somebody in the beginning of winter could remove a family's roof and just steal your money. So it's not just that you didn't fix the roof, you left us with absolutely nothing.
Five years ago, civil servant Philip and wife Gabby had high hopes when they bought their 3-bedroom home. Set in a London suburb, perfect for raising a family, it cost them £325,000.
I think one of the things that really gelled with us becoming a couple was that dream we held personally. I just found a home with each other. So this was all our life savings coming together to do this.
7 months ago, there was a leak in the bedroom shared by their kids, Orion and Ariel. They hired a builder who fixed it, but their problems really began when he recommended retiling the entire roof.
He started the job, put the scaffolding up, ripped all the tiles off. He then came and said, oh, there's a problem, the joists underneath are rotten and the entire roof structure is unsound, and so I can't tile on top. The quote went from $3,300 for the tiles and escalated to $9,200, and so that was like a tough pill to swallow, but what choice do you have?
But the builder came up with a further plan. For an outlay of £18,000, he would also install a loft conversion. As it would increase the worth of their house and be a good investment, the couple agreed.
In that moment, it's not that you didn't go through the right steps and get the references, it's that the heavens are open, you have no roof, and you've got 2 kids upstairs. You have somebody here who appears to be trustworthy. And he was very professional, very likable.
He came into the house, saw my daughter. He said, she's lovely. I have a daughter too.
Yeah.
This is a picture of her.
Yeah.
I'm starting to feel like there's a human side to this.
Yes.
This guy looks really genuine.
Philip and Gabby paid the builder a deposit of £7,000. And he brought in a subcontractor to start the work on the loft conversion.
They're here the next day. He's on it in terms of every next day there's progression. You know, the scaffolding is up, the tiles go off, the scaffolding is up. The subcontractor comes in through the loft conversion.
But then they received some worrying news.
Within the next 3 days of things progressing, we hear from the subcontractor that the builder's uncle was ill in Ireland. So he goes off to Ireland. And we never hear from him after that.
We couldn't get hold of the builder at all. We had tried to call him, nobody was answering the phone. Yeah, it was looking like things were beginning to unravel.
Although the builder had vanished, the subcontractor was still turning up. But things were about to unravel even further. Home sweet home. It's meant to be your haven, a place you feel secure. So imagine how it would feel to watch your world crumbling before your very eyes.
It was a Hollywood disaster movie. When's it going to stop? When's it going to stop?
What began as a dip in the road was to threaten one couple's way of life.
She has been a virtual prisoner.
Three years ago, after his wife Sylvia had become increasingly ill, David found the perfect retirement bungalow which the couple hoped would make life easier for them.
When this bungalow became available, this is absolutely ideal because we can park the car just directly outside the front door, which is only a few footsteps for her. We'll drop a homemade soup. Is that all right?
Very good. Delicious.
But whilst they were enjoying their ideal home in this peaceful Northamptonshire village, an unexpected danger was bubbling just beneath the surface.
Well, it was a normal Tuesday morning. Went out to collect the bins in when the next door neighbour said, "Have you seen your path and bit of garden?" And that's when I first noticed it. It appeared at first sight that a lorry had mounted the pavement, squashed it down a bit and into my front garden.
I went out to investigate and saw there was a definite collapse in the pavement area.
Over the next few hours, I looked out again out the window and I saw one of the curbstones had disappeared. And the first thing I said to Sarah was, some cheeky thing, somebody's pinched a curbstone. Can you believe that? And I went out to have a look and it had actually dropped down into the ground. There was a gap underneath and the whole big curbstone had dropped down out of sight.
That strange dip in the road was the first clue David had that something was seriously wrong. He called the local authorities, but whilst he waited for a response, the crisis deepened.
First of all, you would notice a hairline crack in some of the blocks, and then an hour later it had got to 1.5 inches, and then 2 hours later it had started to subside into the hole, just like that. You could actually see it happening. These cracks appearing, and then the ground gradually sinking away.
It was going in and caving in, but it was caving in very relentlessly and very slowly, but it was going.
The problem was spreading, and what had started as a few cracks and a dip in the pavement had turned into a large hole 12 foot from their home.
6 hours, a matter of 6 hours, this disappeared in. So that's how quick it was happening. And it was quite frightening, really. By dusk time, we involved the police, and they were very good. They came straight out and used my wheelie bins and some tape to put a little barricade round.
With no idea what was causing the collapse, it was a stressful time for the couple.
Well, then over the next day, the hole got even bigger, and the barricade they'd put up had fell inside the hole as it had widened. First initial thoughts was a Hollywood disaster movie. And I have seen sinkholes on the news, and I thought, my goodness, we do hope we're not going down that road.
It was a shock. Could have cried.
The next morning, and with the ground still crumbling around them, David made an alarming discovery.
I went out to have a further look at it, which by now was about 20 foot by 12 foot, and I could hear water running. And I thought, this is looking a bit more serious, well, even more serious now. It was quite distressing, really, to see your garden and your block paving disappearing down and this hole getting bigger and bigger. When's it going to stop? When's it going to stop?
But far from stopping, the problem was about to get even worse.
Grandad's my grandma's carer, really, and without access to a driveway and without access to the car, it was very difficult for them to be able to get to the doctors or any sort of medical appointments that they needed.
In North London, Gabby and Philip's house had suffered a leak. But when their builder walked out, leaving an unsupervised contractor on the job, their small leak turned into a structural catastrophe.
We've lost the home that we've been building over the last 5 years, and our whole house has been destroyed. Just a living nightmare. It's hard not to wish that they had just never knocked on our door. I'm devastated. I'm devastated.
Their original builder had disappeared to Ireland, taking £10,000 of the couple's money with him. And the subcontractor who the builder recommended to do their loft conversion had also taken a further £7,000 from them for materials and labour.
We started to notice that the quality of the work the subcontractor was doing was looking shoddy. And whenever we questioned him about what he was doing or we noticed something that didn't quite look right, he would just say, I do that all the time.
We were suspicious before, but only became confirmed when the building regulations came in and all but condemned the entire job because things were just not up to scratch.
Philip and Gabby really began to worry when they noticed steel supports for the roof were missing.
At this point, we were like, well, now hold up a minute. We've already paid for steels. It suddenly dawned on us, well, where are these steels? Someone's taken those steels, and he was trying to build an entire loft conversion and without any steel support. That's when things really came to a head, when we realized that he's, trying to take us for a ride like the first guy.
Just gutting. It's gutting. It's really gutting. Once we started to say, look, this just isn't acceptable, he decided he's going to leave. He walks off the job at that point. because we were questioning his integrity. I mean, the audacity of it, right? And that's where we were left. We were left where, at this point, it's just no longer salvageable. And we're just sitting here looking at each other. Somebody wake me up. This just can't be happening.
With the roof left untiled for several weeks, their only protection from the elements was a piece of tarpaulin, and the wet and windy weather was about to wreak havoc with their home.
This bit worries me because it's propped up with that piece of wood here. This was the first major leak that we had as a result of what they did to the house. So this was the first place where we truly had that experience of, oh my God, it's raining inside our house. The box room caved in, the bathroom, it's very bowed and you're seeing the water damage. The kids' room, that ceiling is gonna fall. That wallpaper, I don't wanna touch that because that shelf literally just fell off the wall because this whole wall at the back here is soaking wet.
The whole house started to feel like it's crumbling around us. Because it was raining through the lights, we had to turn the electrics off. And so it went from being structure and sound, rain is falling inside, ceilings are falling, and now it's dark.
Yeah.
And it's that time of year where it gets dark around 4. It feels very wrong leaving my wife and kids in that every day. They're miserable and they're just here, and I'm leaving that behind every day to have to go to work.
This was one of actually the most terrifying experiences of this process because our bed used to be here and this ceiling fell literally above where we sleep. We weren't in the room at the time, thankfully. Like we ran upstairs to see what was going on and the ceiling literally came in. It was a rainy day and I guess the rain just took its toll. One of the saddest things in this room for me is on the top of that wardrobe, my wedding dress is in a bag up there that I can't reach. And it's not just the house, it's our home, it's the heart of everything that we do. There's nothing I can do to fix it. I just want it fixed.
And for Gabby and Philip, the costs of the damage were mounting. In Yorkshire, Ted's cottage sits on a bend on a busy B road, which is used by over 7,000 vehicles a day.
None of them, not one of these, not one of them are doing 30 miles an hour. They're not one of them. I'm sorry, but do you mind if I move away?
Speeding cars have damaged his property 40 times in 15 years. The situation has had a very disturbing effect on Ted's health.
It makes you, yes it does, it makes you bag your nerves. In fact, at one time last year, I was under the doctor for my nerves. It got that bad. There's a car just clipped the curb at the other side of the road. And they think they eat that, they're going to come over here, aren't they? Can we move away from here, please? Because it is getting me. I like to, tell you what, I'm going to shut that. That's what normally kept shut.
Ted doesn't even feel safe inside his home. 9 years ago, a speeding car smashed into his house, demolishing his kitchen and wall and causing more than £7,000 worth of damage.
2006, a car hit this wall, took all this wall out. A car that was doing more than 70 miles an hour. It was a shock because I was woken up abruptly at 5 o'clock in the morning, which made it even worse. I then had to get people out of the car that could have killed you. It bounced back off, ended up upside down over the road with one trapped in the driver's seat. If I'd have been in this kitchen when that had hit, I'd have been dead. This hole was right from there. The hole, this is just rebuilt to support the chimney breast upstairs, right through here. All this window was gone. And it had to be shored up because the whole building, and the building was unsafe. So bad in here. You don't stand and cook, you come in and quickly cook something. Just don't like being in here. I'd like to kind of be moving to another room, please.
Nervous Ted lives mostly in the back room of his cottage.
This is where I do spend my time. It's out of the way. Not had any damage to this at all, never been damaged, this room.
Residents have lobbied the council to take action against the speeding cars.
The first thing they did round here was to redo the white lines and do the slow side. Then they decided to put some plastic bollards up. That made no difference. And now they have put anti-skid on, and that's meant to stop them skidding. But I was walking up the road the other day and one did come round sideways. So if they're going too fast, the anti-skid's no use anyway, so that's what they've done.
The village speed limit has been reduced to 30 miles per hour. A new anti-skid road surface and warning signs installed, but no further action is planned by the council.
Residents did want speed cameras, but the criteria for those are set nationally, and this location just doesn't meet the criteria for speed cameras. What we've not managed to find is a particular cause. These events have all largely been caused by driver behaviour, but there's no particular pattern in terms of time of day, weather conditions, etc.
In the meantime, Ted's home is still under threat 24/7.
I get a thump from a vehicle or a wagon bangs and you think, hey, so it's on your mind constantly. The bathroom's been damaged. Most of the time I'll shower because it's quicker to jump under the shower and get out. It'd be nice to come in and have a hot soak, but you sit there, you're thinking, hey, is this the one that comes in? Am I going to end up in the middle of the road?
Can't imagine what it's like for him being afraid in your own home. What might happen next? It'd be terrifying for a lad. It was an awful situation to be in.
It's getting that way that I'm seriously thinking that it'd be better off somewhere else, where you're not got a constant worry. You'd be able to sit out in your garden, would be nice. Because I don't want to be hit by a car. I'd like to stay around for a bit longer.
Ted is now actively looking for another house in the village, away from the road. What must it be like to see the earth crumble underneath your home?
The house was hanging in midair.
To face the horror and heartbreak as you realise you've lost it forever.
I knew it was the end. It was just a sort of cold assessment. No, that's it. It's got to go.
"70-year-old Bryony has happy memories of her clifftop bungalow in the historic North Norfolk village of Haysborough.
Waking up at 5 in the morning with the sun just rising over the sea. I tended to wake with the light, and if I only had to sort of hitch myself up on my pillow to be able to see the red ball of the sun actually rising out of the sea. Now, how many people could see that from their bedroom window?
But Bryony's dream house with sweeping views of the sea sat on part of the coastline that is vulnerable to erosion. In the last 23 years, more than 30 properties have been lost to the sea. When she moved there 7 years ago, she knew that eventually the sea would claim it, but believed she could enjoy retirement here for at least 20 years.
I thought I would have quite a long time there because the erosion was parallel with the house, and it was coming in at about a foot, just over about 30 centimetres a year. And I'd always said that when it came to the middle of my flower bed in the middle of my garden, I would move out.
Bryony's bungalow was getting closer and closer to the edge of the cliff. Then, one evening, a tidal surge which sealed its fate.
The fury and the sheer size of the waves, they're bad enough a lot of the time, but then they were immense.
The waves were actually at the top of the cliff, and yards and yards of cliff was just disappearing.
Bryony didn't feel safe inside her home.
So on the night of the tidal surge, I shifted over into the mobile over here from a matter of safety and waited till daylight.
The next morning, Bryony's life was changed forever as she caught sight of her home suspended in mid-air.
That was the beginning of the end for the house. Nothing could be done to save it at that point.
That is what is so frightening, the way that something's there one minute and gone the next.
In North London, after botched-up building work, Philip and Gabby's family home has been left structurally unsound and with no roof.
I still can't believe that somebody would put me, my husband, my 2 little children in so much danger. Just take the money. You don't have to, they didn't need to leave us in such an unsafe way.
For 6 months, the couple and their 2 kids have been forced to live in one room downstairs, and so far the costs have escalated to £35,000.
Because we're still not watertight, every time it's windy or it rains, the damage is increasing. Here in the kitchen there was a day where the heavens just opened and it was literally pouring down through this light fixing here. I don't know how much that additional cost is going to add on top of that bill that we already can't afford. So every time it rains, it's not just the actual physical circumstances. What do I do? It's kind of it goes through your mind, oh my, like, what's the check that's going to be attached to that? You want to feel that there's a break where we can enjoy what we've worked so hard for, instead of it being the nightmare that it is right now.
It's been 6 months since work stopped on their house, and they've had no luck tracing the builder who disappeared with thousands of pounds of their money.
The advice from the police has been, I wouldn't have much hope in finding the person. And to be honest, they don't have that money stashed under their bed, you know what I mean? So I think my savings is gone.
As for the subcontractor who also walked off, they plan to report him to the Trading Standards Institute. But now, fortunately for the couple, friends and family have rallied round.
Thankfully, we've been sent many angels to help us, and one of my friends started a fundraising page behind our backs. The donations that people have given so generously are what allows us to buy the building materials that we now need to rectify the situation. I think so far we've been able to raise £5,000 nearly. That kind of goodwill and generosity of spirit has just been really moving.
And they've had an amazing offer of practical assistance from local builder Darren.
They're a lovely family. I've got to know them over the last month. The kids are lovely kids. It's just a shame that they have to live in a house like this. I'm in the trade, it's what I do. I just thought that I should just do what I can to just help them,
Every weekend I think, oh yes, the builder's coming, and I get excited, but it's always a bittersweet feeling because I feel terrible that he's coming here and I know we haven't paid him at all for that time. He's just coming here on the faith and trust, that we're going to come through at the end.
To leave it in just a state, but also to leave it unsafe is quite unbelievable, really. It's also interesting that they didn't actually need the work doing in the first place. They probably just scared-mongered into getting the work done. It's now caused the house to be worse than it started off with, unfortunately.
To help Darren get the work done, Philip and Gabby provide a team of volunteer labourers.
It could happen to any of us, so I just thought, why not help and volunteer to get their roof back on.
My sister's desperate at the moment, to be honest, and it's very nice and kind of humbling to watch other people just give their time. It's really nice to see the kind people kind of come and say, yeah, we got your back,
We're left here now totally reliant on the goodwill of friends, family and strangers to get this work done, and thank goodness we found somebody like the builder we have now who actually is helping us to get past this by actually doing good work, reshaping our impressions of the building industry, because we're left thinking, well, can we trust anyone? And we can. I think we're going to make it through this, but and it still is, a very difficult journey.
Busy and stressful times, but we're determined. We've got to be determined. We can't give up now. We've come too far to give up now.
For Gabby and Philip, the fundraising and the building work goes on. When David and Sylvia discovered a strange dip in the pavement outside their Northamptonshire home,
First thing I said, somebody's pinched a curbstone.
it was about to turn into a hole that would eat away the ground they stood upon.
The ground gradually sinking away, and it was quite frightening, really.
Within just 12 hours of the ground appearing to sink, a crater had appeared in their front garden, and the situation had become critical.
I went out to have a further look at it, which by now was about 20 foot by 12 foot and about a metre deep, and I could hear water running. There are some underground springs and I did wonder whether there was possibly something much more serious with ground subsidence, and phoned the water board, who came out very promptly, diagnosed a mains water burst. They had a team out that evening, digging down, found the water main, found the leak and repaired it.
But there was a further bombshell lying in wait.
The team arrived and started to excavate all the way round, and they discovered that the water must have been leaking for some time because it had eroded from underneath the road, the soil. So that was all dug out. I went out to have a look at 5 o'clock and noticed that was filling up with water. And it wasn't until a couple of days later another waterboard chap came by and he said, there's another leak. He said, if you have a look at this far corner, you can see a movement in the water. And he said, that's proof there's another leak. The broken main was somewhere around about here, the first one they found. But you could see how the water has taken away the soil and the foundations, the path, the foundations of the road, and my garden and block paving, of course, also. It is a bit of a shock to see it, destructions, what's happened, and to think that it all caused by mains water, really. It's frightening, really, the power that water can do and how it can undermine concrete foundations and walls and roads and pathways.
Gallons of water from the leaks had ruined David and Sylvia's driveway, and whilst the root of the problem had been fixed, the work to make it safe and rebuild would take weeks and leave the couple high and dry.
The access problem has been the most disruptive part of the business for us. Yep.
Sylvia's had a stroke and has difficulty walking, so the 3-foot deep crater outside their front door was a dangerous hazard.
Stuck indoors, couldn't go in the car. It's too far for me to walk.
Without the car, Sylvia was marooned.
She hasn't left the house since it's happened. She has been a virtual prisoner. Yeah, it has affected her. She's very quiet. She doesn't say a lot, but I think she thinks quite deeply about things. It's a little bit difficult when you're disabled and sort of sit there looking and thinking about it all day long. It obviously has a more serious effect on her.
I'm not very happy about it. I'll be glad when it's finished, all the disruption.
It was a whole month before the work was finished, and to their relief, the couple's ordeal was finally over.
This was round about the centre of the hole, so yeah, all seems to be fixed and finally sorted out now, which is an absolute joy. Very, very pleased. Could not have done this 3 or 4 weeks ago, or I would have been up to my knees in water. And not a pleasant sight at all, but happily all completed now and everything's fixed.
And as the road, garden and driveway were reinstated, so was Sylvia's freedom.
Sylvia's delighted that things are also back. I can now get her in and out of the house and into the car easily, and this is what is important to us. Hopefully things are now permanently sorted and we can look forward to the next few years without any more problems.
The sea had actually cut the cliff away from underneath the house, so the house was hanging in midair.
In the village of Haysborough on the Norfolk coast, a massive tidal surge has left Bryony's home precariously balanced on the edge of a cliff.
It was teetering on the edge, and it looked as if at any moment it could just disappear. It could just tip over like that. My house was hanging over the edge here. And so it was here that it was possible to look up and see up inside the house. People kept standing underneath with their cameras looking up at me, looking down at them through the hole in the floor. And a bit weird coming out of the kitchen and being able to see the beach 30 feet below.
The reality of what had happened slowly began to sink in.
On the night of the tidal surge, had I not moved over to my mobile, had I been still sleeping in my bedroom, it is possible that the extra weight of me in that room could in fact have caused the whole bungalow to tip over.
Bryony would never sleep in her bungalow again. It was no longer her home.
Everything that was in there I lost. I lost all my jewellery, which my daughters had given me over the years. A lot of sentimental value there. Irreplaceable.
Bryony did manage to salvage bits and pieces from other parts of the house.
I went in to fetch stuff out, and so many people came from the village to help me that we were in and out all the time. There were things on the edge which I would have liked to have saved, but were too near the edge, in my opinion, for anybody to risk their lives.
The only option was to have her bungalow knocked down by the council, like many others along her road had been already.
I knew it was the end. It was just a sort of cold assessment. You know, that's it, it's got to go.
In less than a week, the demolition team had moved in.
I was in a state of shock, luckily, so I was able to stand there and watch this huge machine crunching holes in the roof of the house and just smashing it up in its teeth, like a big dinosaur, really, until there was nothing left there.
I think people were very sad about Bryony's house. They were very sad for Bryony herself. And I think people fear the worst for themselves. It's just a sign of things to come for all of us.
Other properties in the village will be at risk from erosion in the next 50 years. But Bryony's closest neighbours, Anita and Arthur, face losing their home within the next 20.
When we first bought this property, we were on the 150-year line.
Yeah.
So, and now we've lost about 120 years, really.
Yeah.
My family, my friends were with me. We opened a bottle of Carver and we drank to the last of the house. We stood there with our glasses in our hand, toasting the house, actually, as it came down. Yeah. It's very difficult to sort of take in now that this was once a home that I lived in, because now there is just nothing but weeds here, and it's like looking back into another life almost, because it's just so different.
Bryony has moved full-time into a mobile home on the land behind where her house once stood.
I mean, really, just about a year to get used to living over here. To start with, I always used to walk in the wrong direction, and I adjusted to walking over here, but it felt strange. But now, funnily enough, it feels like coming home, so I would say that I'm actually making the adjustment now.
Just as she began to get over the trauma of losing her first home, Bryony received a shock letter from her local council.
This is the enforcement notice which has been served by the council on me to tell me that I have to get out of my mobile caravan. It's saying that I shouldn't be here, and it gives me 6 months to move out unless I put in an appeal, which I will do. I will sort my own accommodation out as soon as I can. I can't believe, in a way, it is happening a second time. It was bad enough losing my house the first time, but losing my temporary home as well. I'm dreading having to leave here. I don't know quite, I don't know whether I'm going to survive it, quite honestly. I don't know. I don't know.
It is her land, and she's got every right to be there. As long as she's not in any danger or any danger to anybody else, that is, as far as I'm concerned, you know, live and let live.
Bryony would one day like to buy another property in Haysborough, but she also has an emergency short-term plan.
If I am turned out of my home here in my mobile caravan, I will probably have to hitch my touring caravan to the back of my car, pack the cats into it and tour the country for a couple of years.
Bryony has lodged an appeal with North Norfolk Council and is awaiting the outcome. The council said they made an offer for Bryony's property following the redevelopment of the Coastal Change Pathfinder scheme, which she declined.